Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm Gamesplaining Cubitos. Cubitos is a 2 to 4 player game that came out this year, and I'm really surprised and happy to get a game that came out this year, this early in the year, and be able to present it to you. So please just enjoy that. Cubitos, with the actual title, when I purchased it, I was thinking, oh, this will be a game like Cubit, I believe, was the computer game from the 80s where you had a little guy that jumped up and you had to get everything the same color. It's not. Just throwing that out there, it is not a board game version of that. In essence, it's a race game. And so if you've got the idea of this is a race game, it will make a little bit of sense. It is a card drafting game. There are no cards. This is a dice game. Don't misunderstand me. This is a dice game, but it works with a really similar mechanism to card drafting. You have a certain number of dice that you can roll. You roll those dice, you use those dice, and then you put them over to the side. Once the area that you're drawing from is empty, you take everything that you've used already and you put it over there. You're able to use dice that you've rolled to purchase more dice to come in, to go over there, and when it eventually come around, they'll do some other funky stuff. So you want to fill up your dice thing with a whole bunch of these colored dice to make it more able to do stuff. That's the essence of a card drafting game, but this is a dice drafting game. There are a whole bunch of sides of the dice that have nothing on them. And keeping that in mind, they call it if you bust, so if you roll the dice and they all show no face, assuming that you have pulled out 3 that do stuff already, you have busted, which means those dice all stay there for the next round. The dice that you have pulled out go to the expended side. You move along another track that will, if you move far enough down, it will allow you to have more dice and will give you more money to be able to purchase stuff. It feels like a deck drafting game, but with dice. The whole thing with this game, however, is that you have 8 different colored dice that you can add in to your dice pool. There is a card that says what the dice do, and there are 7 different versions of cards for each die, which actually makes the amount of cards able to be played in this game almost infinite. In terms of what different combinations could I have. Now, in the rules, you're playing your first race, use this board, use these cards. Second race, use this board, these cards, and kind of move through that way. And that's actually not a bad idea. I will tend to stay with that personally. But if you get away from that and just go at random, there's actually an infinite amount of different playability on the game. Simply because you have 7 different cards within each color, and there are 8 colors to choose from, that you'll have one from each color kind of happening. That's a lot of game. And I fear that much game can be a little confusing if you open the rules and start reading, because you're kind of just, well, what are all these things talking about? I don't understand. I need to play it to understand it. I need to actually get it on the table to understand it. Now, once it's on the table, there are 4 different tracks that you'll be racing on. So the game finishes when someone passes the finish line. If more than one person passes the finish line in the same round, then it's whoever gets the furthest past the finish line is the winner. It really is a pure racing game. But when you're playing, it's really quick and really easy to forget that you're racing and just go after getting the extra stuff so you can up the dice that you have. And eventually you'll race, but early on, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of dice. Not necessarily the worst idea in the world, but you've got to remember it is a racing game. The games that I've played, I tend to aim for the most expensive die because they give 4 movement whenever you actually get the side on them up. They're pretty hard to get, but if you can get them, even if you get 2 or 3 of them, you can actually do probably a quarter of the track in one turn if you get the right roll. That's worthwhile, and that's the thing that's going to get you to the end and get you winning. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that can happen. There's a whole bunch of other dice you can take which will do other things. Some of them you will, if you roll their symbol, it just means you can re-roll them. that's okay, that's cool. There's some dice in the mix that I tend to not touch at all. There's some dice that I go, oh yeah, I really need to get them. There's some dice that when they come up with their symbol, they actually need to be removed from the game. Each of the dice symbols have a regular side and I don't know, some little extra zing on it. And I haven't actually played with the extra zing, but I understand that if you get the zing, that does an extra thing on top of what the actual die itself does. There's enough going on with this game to be kind of cool. Now, here's the thing that I like the most about this. This is the game box. So each of these boxes, you open them up, take the dice out, and the dice live on top, and they will live there for the whole game. This side tells you what is on the dice, so it tells you how many sides there are, and so this is a dog and there's 3 money, and then there's 4 sides that do nothing, that are blank. That's really cool. Not only do all the dice live in the box that they're presented with and presented on, because it's really quick and easy to see what's going on, but when you put them back in the box, they go in without space. They fit in beautifully. These pieces, this little space here, fits the pieces beautifully. I'm so impressed. It's such a simple way to pack a game, but I'm so impressed that someone has gone to the thought process of going, okay, we can get these boxes in. There's another box on the side. This just has some cards in it. It doesn't need to be this size. Why is it this size? Because it stabilizes the rest of the boxes. That level of thought is actually really, really wonderful, and I fear is missed in a heck of a lot of games where they just throw the stuff in and hope you get it right, or even worse, they'll have a plastic insert, but you're never quite sure exactly what's supposed to go where, or you can get everything in, but then there's this space up here for the board and things don't quite fit in. There's so many reviewers who will just go, oh, an empty box, I'll get rid of any inserts and just throw the stuff in their bags. They have given us a solution. And it's not just a solution to the packing, it's a solution to the packing that allows you to very, very easily and very quickly be able to see what's going on while you're playing the game. I really appreciate that level of thought that has gone into the packing materials on this game. I really appreciate it. I think that's a really wonderful thing. I wish that more games would do things that way, because it really is a good way to pack a game. The whole artwork of everything is in cubes. So you've got dice that are cubes. The playing pieces, they're kind of off cubes. They're cubes with a little bit of shape to them, I guess, is like missing corners and things like that, and that's kind of fun. The other thing I've forgotten is the first player, because there is a first player, even though everyone can actually do their stuff at the same time, there is a first player. The first player gets an extra die, which gives them potentially, if it rolls right, will give them extra money or give some extra permanent money. Notice the difference between money and permanent money. So if there's money showing on the dice, it must be used now. Permanent money is counters that you get in that can just sit and be added on to your dice at any point that you wish to use them. And so there's enough thinking between which of those ones am I going for. The feet, the feet sign, which tells you can move. I don't think I've said this in the Gamesplanation. I definitely have in the Gamesplayed, but I don't think I said in the Gamesplanation that you can actually trade in the feet for 4 money. That's actually a really important thing to understand and to remember, because that 4 extra money can be really useful, and you don't always want to move. That's an interesting thought. This is a race game where you don't always want to move, or more importantly, you don't necessarily want to move the amount that is shown on the die. So if you've got, say, 2 boots, if you move 1 spot, it will get you, that's okay. If you move 2 spots, it might put you on a spot that is going to remove a die from the ones that you have. You may not want to lose a die, or you may want to lose a die. There are both angles on this, because losing a die is like thinning out your deck. Remember I was talking about it as a deck building game. You're thinning out your deck from the dice that don't do a whole bunch that you've got at the beginning of the game. But there's a point where having you don't want to do that yet. You kind of don't want to do that till you get far enough around the board. Those little elements and the thinkingness on that is really important. But if you roll 2 boots, you don't have to move 2 squares. You can move just 1 square if you wish and use the other one as money to be able to purchase some other dice. There is a limit to the amount of dice that you can purchase. I believe the limit is 2, and it must be of different colors, so you can't buy 2 of the same color dice, but you can buy two dice throughout the whole set of 8 potential dice that come in. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Some of the dice have rules that when you, say, have the most of this die, you'll get a whole bunch of stuff, but you've then got to turn one of the dice in. Things like that. There's just a lot of stuff going on with that mechanism, or the way to understand the what each of the dice does. And it's really important to understand that before you start playing. Understand what every die does before you start playing, because there's some that you're going to want, there's some you're not going to want. The yellow die, for example, I tend to avoid that one. I don't really want it. I'd much prefer to save up just that couple of extra money to be able to get the one that's going to allow me to move 4 spots. That's, I think, the purple die. So there's just manipulations within that to think, oh, this is really what I want to get to. So I'll leave it there. Please go ahead and watch my Gamesplay and Gamesplanation to get a feel for how the game actually plays and what I'm talking about. If you have any games that you would like to be gamesplayed, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.